ready, Jane? Debbie, are we ready in the back? We are. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, August 14th, 2024, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website or to tctvonline.com. Click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn your camera on when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
We do have 2 signed up.
Thank you. Okay, we will call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Olson, will you read us, please?
Yes, I will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will start the meeting with public comment. So will the first person who's signed up please come to the front of the room? Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, all. My name's Patrick Bickler. I have a house at 4320 Amity Avenue in Nesquin. And just for the board's interest and the public's interest, I had a few items that I thought I want to just review briefly, and then if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But we and several folk here are here to kind of express an opposition to what we believe is an inappropriate change in the occupancy from a single-family residential to a bed and breakfast, also called a lodging and boarding room. It's a lodging house or a boarding house, but it's a transient occupancy with up to 15 people that the Tillamook County Land Use Ordinance Article 11 definition allows, and not including the family members occupying the structure. And it's proposed by a request that's coming through the county. It's in the county, and it's 851-24-00249 PLNG Leahy at 48225 Breakers Boulevard in Nesquin. So the short-term STR Ordinance 84, as it's currently amended, was to address the short-term rental issue. The applicant's not on that list for Nesquin, nor is the applicant on the STR waiting list. And in lieu of the under operating an STR license, we got to wonder how many bed and breakfasts are going to be allowed in Nesquin. During the past few months, the new structure has been completed, and the STR non-registered applicants are going for a conditional use request. And it's, we've observed the client using the facility already as basically a horse riding holiday, as they call it on their website. And it's over the last few months, and we know that there's not any Tillamook land use approval, and there's certainly not an STR. The proposed use is not timely. We know that there's no real proof of a market need within the low-density neighborhood of Nesquin, and there's not been anything submitted in with their application. They haven't put any kind of restrictions or any suggested, mitigation measures. The county comprehensive plan doesn't recognize any need for a horse holiday bed and breakfast in Neskowin, and the increase in density will be detrimental to the health, welfare, and safety of the neighbors surrounding the property. The current public streets and adjacent roadside areas are well-worn and unsightly. The request for a horse holiday bed and breakfast enterprise would increase dust during dry weather and stormwater ponding during inclement weather. Additionally, we have already noticed an uptick in experiencing problems with horse manure, parking overflow onto the adjacent neighbors, traffic safety, fire and life vehicular access, and even tsunami evacuation concerns. These all are negatively impacting the off-site property owners and the local community, including the nearby golf course, who frequently use Amity Avenue and Breakers Boulevard intersection. You may recall that Neskowin has one primary ingress and egress exit point. The site specific is too small. It's a 5,000 square foot parcel for the proposed intense use. Insufficient parking quantity has been submitted. The site's 2 driveways have public street frontage in excess of 25%, as the Tillamook County Land Use Ordinance Section 33224F refers to. The corner site relies on the adjacent public streets for a driveway to this parking, and it clearly impacts the community traffic safety. Although the Coastal Hazard Overlay Zone report recommended that the site be revegetated after construction, the proposed site remains without any plant landscaping. Given the overwhelming community objections to the proposed commercial enterprise, I believe there was about 50 emails inquiring about this or writing letters in opposition. And that's not an exact number, we respectfully request the director refer the conditional use application to the commission for a public hearing and decision as per the Tillamook County Land Use Section 6.020. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And do we have another person who wanted to give public comment? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Ladd Henderson, Pacific City, Oregon. I started off with a proposal to put a 3/4 scale P-38 airplane on top of a building, basically to protect the building at the end of the runway, or adjacent to the end of the runway of Pacific City Airport. In so doing, I've found that the planning department basically throws every obstacle in front of you possible, and I mowed through all of those and ended up with the approval, basically an agreement that it met all county ordinance requirements. But in digging into that, I find that no, it does not. Article 1, page 1 of the ordinances governing a building in Tillamook County, I find that they have a requirement to meet all local, state, and federal requirements. The wording is compliance with all of those requirements. So in digging into this, I find that Tillamook County has consistently issued building permits in violation of the state airport requirements. The state came in and bought the airport in 1955. Since that time, basically the state claims jurisdiction, and I've got copies of the map that they have supplied, which shows clearly that my project and many others over the last decades my project would be illegal, and the other projects that have been issued permits are illegal. There's no grandfather clause in the state ordinances. And so all of the buildings now that have been built adjacent to the Pacific City Airport are in violation of state statutes and federal FARs as well. So I'm coming here saying, now what does the county do? You are in violation many times over the opposition of the state agency issuing permits for all of this development. With my project being in jeopardy, it's eliminated. But now the county is in a position of having approved all of these permits over decades in violation of their own ordinances, in violation of state and federal requirements. And to me, that puts the county in horrible liability jeopardy. I would think if there's anything happens at that airport that involves any of the properties that have been approved illegally, that the county is hanging out to dry on those issues. And I have been screaming this to the planning department for a month now. I get absolutely nowhere. So I'm coming to you saying, for Pete's sake, you are responsible to this county for potential liability. I can imagine, I've managed municipalities for 20 years of my life. I can imagine my insurance company's opinion of a continuation of those policies. And so I'm just raising the red flag, screaming at the top of my voice, saying, for Pete's sake, commissioners, take some action because you are hanging this county out to dry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Good morning.
I'm Mary Ann Earls, resident of Mennesquin. I just wanted to leave you a visual that shows the really unsafe situation with the horse operation.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you so much.
Did you also want to make a comment?
Pardon?
Did you also want to make a comment or just the
Sure,
visuals?
I'll make a comment. I haven't planned to, but I will. I just want to reemphasize the situation in Nesquin, that they are operating a horse riding entity.
Can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Oh,
for the
sure.
record,
I'm
please?
sorry. I'm Mary Ann Earls, resident of Nesquin, Oregon. Okay. I moved there 3 years ago. And I expected a safe residential area, as would anyone when they move into that area. And then that was shattered with a horse riding entity being operated out of the location in Nesquin. It's a shock that it's taking place, and it is going on at this time with no permitting. And so 2 days a week, they arrive with horses, and they bring in people from all over the country. It's on the World Wide Web, and they provide accommodations to the people with no licensing to do so. And then the horses block Amity and Breakers, which is a very central intersection to Nesquin. And emergency vehicles could not get through there. And there are elderly, there are people walking, there are scooters, there are bicycles, and horses can get spooked, and it is not a safe situation. So the community is very, very concerned about this, and at least 50 have replied, I know, to the commission, and more will do so. So we would really appreciate your taking time to look at this and to see the situation and to take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any more public comments? Okay.
May I comment
Oh,
on
sure.
on those? Thank you. Good morning, both of you, well, three of you, actually. I'll just mention on behalf of Nesquin, I do know what you're talking about. I live in Pacific City, and I go to Nesquin fairly often, mostly for my wife, and I would take a walk around the perimeter because there seems to be less wind there than in Pacific City. But I'm pretty familiar with this area, not so much with the horse issue, and I'm not going to comment on the process on that and where we are. What I would like to hear, and I'm not sure if this would be the right forum or at the right time, I'd like to hear from Ms. Absher, who is our Community Development Director, who is quite familiar with this. I will say I've attended quite a number online of your Citizens Advisory Committee meetings over the past months. Not so much recently because I've had some other conflicts, but I appreciate that this is something altogether different for Neskowin. It's something that may or may not be appropriate, but I would like to hear Ms. Absher speak to that at some point, and I'm not sure this is the right forum. But so that's the first part. So I'm very aware of that, and I hear what you're saying. I believe it does need a resolution sooner than later. And I will make sure that, for my part, that happens, and it not only is at the Planning Commission, but before this board if it needs to be. The second, with regard to Mr. Henderson, he and I have talked about this quite a number of times. We had breakfast together a few weeks ago, and I'm very, very familiar, living about 3 blocks from the airport in Pacific City. What he's asking or indicating or commenting upon, I think, is indeed an issue. I will say this, there was a meeting with the Oregon Department of Aviation, and for those of you who don't know, the Pacific City Airport is owned by the state of Oregon, as was indicated. They manage it, they mow the grass from time to time and come in every once in a while and repaint the striping and so on, so it's actually state-owned property. But the county does have a number of ordinances with respect to how adjacent properties can or cannot be built or expanded or whatever. One of the most recent meetings, that was a community meeting with the Oregon Department of Aviation and others, indicated that not only does the state have some jurisdiction, the federal government does because of the Federal Aviation Administration. And if you have a pilot's license, it's a federal license. And my understanding, the way airports work, you start with the runway, and then there's a trapezoid that goes out in terms of a no-fly zone or a no-build zone, actually. And there may indeed be a number of encroachments into that zone. And again, I'm not prepared to comment on that. I know there's another meeting scheduled in September with the Oregon Department of Aviation in Pacific City. And they'll send over a couple or 3 of their key people, as they did before, some knowledgeable people. And there's also another group known as the Friends of the Airport, Friends of Pacific City Airport, that has a lady named Sally Rissell is behind that. There's another individual from Sisters who flies, and a number of others have stepped up to sort of provide a citizen committee monitoring what goes on with the airport. And there may indeed be some contingent liability, maybe some actual liability. I don't know. That probably is a question ultimately for our insurance carrier and legal counsel. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm very familiar with the airport situation and a little less familiar, but also concerned about what appears to be going on in Neskowin. And so I think the next step for me would be to hear, if not this morning, then at another time soon, from our own staff, and let's see if we can put our arms around this and come to some resolution one way or the other.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I would like to hear from Director Absher in a moment if she's available and willing. And I'd just like to say thank you all for coming. Thanks for being here. We very much appreciate hearing your concerns and knowing what's on your minds. It may be clear to you that we're not in charge of land use decisions. Our role is quasi-judicial, so we don't hear land use decisions until they've been appealed, and then we make a decision on the appeal. However, we're very interested in knowing what's on people's minds and what your concerns are. And so, and we need to follow our process, and both issues that you're talking about right now are with the planning department. And they're both planning issues. So if Director Absher is available and would like to respond to these comments, I'd love to hear from her.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Good morning. For the record, my name is Sarah Absher. I'm the Director of the Tillamook County Department of Community Development. And I also want to extend a thank you to those who have showed up this morning to share their concerns with the Commissioners. Talking about the bed and breakfast proposal first. So one important distinction to make is that short-term rentals are not regulated through our land use program. They are regulated through Ordinance 84, which is a separate program. The county has intentionally made a decision going back to 2009 to not fold short-term rentals into the county's land use program. That being said, a bed and breakfast enterprise has always been regulated through a land use program, is regulated through Tillamook County's land use program, and that is common throughout the state with various planning programs. The reason why this process is being noticed to neighbors and they are aware of this application is because we are following that land use review process. Bed and breakfast enterprise proposals have a longstanding history of being reviewed in this department as an administrative review with the conditional use criteria. And through this process, on an appeal, the appeal would go before the Tillamook County Planning Commission. So the Board of Commissioners actually are not, Commissioner Bell, to your point, because following our process, the Board of County Commissioners would not be participating in the land use process, review process for this. From the Planning Commission, it would go on to the State Land Use Board of Appeals, and that would be the next step in that appeal process. We have received several comments on this bed and breakfast enterprise. The public comment period has been open for almost 2 weeks. It actually closes tomorrow at 4 p.m. and I will be working with planning staff through the comments and also the application review. One thing I will note is that I was not aware of the horse riding operation until the comments started coming in. So that is something that I am looking at and that I am getting ready to address. I will be reaching out to the property owners, the Leahys, about that. With that, it is my understanding there may be lodging activities already happening on the property as well. So the Transient Lodging Tax Division is also a part of the review that we are currently doing and that is underway. Tillamook County Public Works, Community Health Licensing, and others will also be a part of this review process. So we have the process underway. We appreciate all of the comments that have come in. We are going through those very carefully and following up on the things that we need to be following up with. So happy to answer any questions about that before switching to the Department of Aviation.
Under what?
Please introduce yourself again.
Mary Ann Earls from Nesquin, Oregon. Under what jurisdiction is the operation of a horse riding entity that is not registered anywhere? Anyway, what jurisdiction does that come under?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, what I need to verify is with the zoning district, if this is even allowed, to the points raised about where livestock can be located in a residential zone. Community is absolutely right about those concerns. And so those are things that I am following up with.
Okay.
I appreciate becoming aware of that and the letters of public comment that were received. I was actually out for a good part of last week and Monday. So coming back, that is at the top of my list to address this week. But so just want to thank everyone. Yeah.
Okay, and thank you so much. I want to reiterate that in the law, livestock cannot be within 100 feet of a residence. Okay, you know that.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
At this time, they are doing that with several, at least 4 residences. Okay.
Yes,
you.
thank you so much. I really
Yes.
appreciate you guys bringing that to our attention.
Thank
Thank you.
Sarah, do you mind taking one more question?
I am happy to.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I'll be quick. Patrick Bickler, 4320 Amity Avenue, Nesquin. Information piece. So when you have a transient lodging facility, bed and breakfast, it's a business enterprise, you also have to consider out of the planning, you're going to have to, I'm sure your building department will look at it too, because it would change from the residential International Code, Oregon Residential Code, to the Oregon State Structural Specialty Code, because it'll become an R1 because it's going to be at least that number of people inside of that building. So that's a different purview. And then also secondarily is the overlay zone criteria would fail in part because of the fact that the single-family residence no longer truly exists. It's the intense use of a bed and breakfast, more people, would negate what the engineer had said and the county staff used as part of the criteria for the overlay. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Okay,
Commissioner Bell, I'm also happy to speak quickly to Mr. Henderson's concerns about permitting and the Department of Aviation.
please do.
Thank you. So I can confirm that the department is not out of compliance or in violation with state or federal law. The standing of the airport, and I appreciate Commissioner Olson's explanation. We have been working closely with the Oregon Department of Aviation for years. And one of the things that's required is for development in that Pacific City Airport obstruction overlay zone, we are required to give ODAB, which is the Oregon Department of Aviation, a minimum 14 days to comment on any permitting proposals moving forward. And the department has consistently done that. Through that comment period and working with ODAB, it has impacted development in the community. It has either, required changes to a development proposal. Sometimes I've seen some projects not be able to be permitted or come to fruition. Typically, we try to get customers connected with the Oregon Department of Aviation at a pre-application meeting, or actually even before they submit permits to the department, because we know that the overlays with that airport are extremely complex. To also reference what Commissioner Olson talked about with the meeting, I actually hosted the meeting and put the meeting together with the Oregon Department of Aviation in Pacific City Woods in June. And part of the reason for that meeting was to really bring to light to the communities the complexities and challenges with development within that area. And Mr. Henderson has been trying to go through the process. He is aware that at this moment, what is required for his project is a consultation with the Oregon Department of Aviation, which is part of the standard practice. I have offered to attend that meeting with him and walk hand in hand through that process, because I also think it's important for me as the director to understand what our customers are required to do to meet everybody's requirements to build. Part of the concern with development within that airport overlay zone that was highlighted at the June meeting in Pacific City is that we are getting to this point to where something may have to give, where either, development may not be able to continue to occur to keep the airport in good standing with their own rules and regulations, or we're looking at the airport as to whether or not it can exist in terms of compatibility with development in the area. It's actually a really big conversation. And it's one that we are trying to work out with the community and with Oregon Department of Aviation and with the Friends of the Pacific City Airport. So there definitely is a larger conversation there that is taking place. I appreciate Commissioner Olson attending those meetings as well. We will continue that conversation, and it is possible that there will be some regulatory updates coming out of that process, but it's going to be a while. And keeping the community engaged is the utmost priority for that process.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay,
So happy to answer any other questions, or happy to let you go ahead and proceed with your meeting. Thank you.
do we have anything else for Sarah? Mr. Henderson?
Again, Ladd Henderson, Pacific City, Oregon. Let me read you the actual Article 1, page 1. It's not hidden someplace. It's plain. It's section 1.030 in the middle of page 1 of Introduction and General Provisions of Tillamook County Land Use Ordinances. Let me read it. Section 1.030, compliance with ordinance provisions. 1, No application made under the provisions of this ordinance shall be approved unless compliance, and that's capitalized, can be shown with all applicable local, state, and federal laws. A lot or parcel may be used in a structure or part of a structure constructed, reconstructed, altered, occupied, or used only in compliance with the requirements of this ordinance. That puts you, the county planning department, under all state and federal regulations. I can read them to you.
Please don't.
But basically what they do is lay out a primary zone. The county ordinance states 100 feet from the center line of the runway. State regulation is 125 feet from the center line of the runway at the elevation of the center line of the runway. And from there on, they have a transition zone, which is 1 foot and 7 feet slope up to a maximum height of 17.85 feet. It's not difficult to understand. I am in compliance, and intend to be in compliance with that regulation. It is costing me $150,000 to prove that I'm wrong and that I can't build my own project. But what my point is that now, because I know and understand that and will comply with that, that this county has been issuing, and Sarah, I have had this discussion with her, and she won't go over the idea that the county still has the right to use their ordinance requirements. I would love to use the ordinance requirements of the county of Tillamook. It allows me to do exactly what I was proposing, to put my silly little airplane on top of a building in the middle of my property. But I am saying I can't do that because of the state regulations. And if I did do that, and I did get county permission to do it, I would still consider myself liable because I know that I am operating in non-compliance with state regulations.
Thank you.
But why does she continue to argue this idea that the county is operated legally? You have operated illegally. You are in a liability position, and it needs to be corrected.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Sarah, thank you very much for being here with us and responding to these concerns.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. I'll be on if you need anything else. I'm just going to listen in the background. Thank you so much.
Terrific. Thanks, folks, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, speaking for myself, genuinely, I am grateful when people come to our meeting. I'm glad to hear from people. Grateful when people make the effort to be here and share with us. We learn a lot, and it's really important to us to be able to hear from people and interact with people, so thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's move on to our agenda. Item 5 is consideration of a third amendment to the Oregon Health Authority 2024-2025 Intergovernmental Agreement Number 026023 for the financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. I believe we have Frank Hanna-Williams with us online.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking this as an agenda item. I'm Frank Hanna-Williams. I'm the director of the Tillamook Family Counseling Center. This amendment brings an amount of dollars to Tillamook County, specifically related to House Bill 4002, which is the House Bill to address concerns related to pre-arrest services for individuals with substance use concerns and how that relates to whether or not they are going to be arrested or deflected. This House bill comes on the tail end of moving away from Measure 110 to a process of identifying resources for counties to plan for deflection programs. In this particular amendment, this brings $118,000 to Tillamook County that is being awarded by the Oregon Health Authority to community mental health programs to be added to the pot of dollars and resources that are going to be pulled together to bring up to address deflection moving early next year. We're in the planning process for what Tillamook County's deflection program will be, and we are involved with some other partners in the community, one of which is Adventist Health through the Our Tillamook initiative, and also with law enforcement, specifically with Chief Troxel. So the purpose of this amendment, I'm saying a lot of words here, but is to acknowledge that the Oregon Health Authority is awarding $118,000 to assist with the process. That money could be used to help create partnerships, to provide some specific services that may be needed, to promote some other kinds of things that will help support our Tillamook County deflection program. So I would ask for your approval. The amount of dollars, the 118, comes out of an allocation which was done through House Bill 5204, which allocated $9 million to all of the counties. So the Tillamook County takes a split of this as $118,000, and I would request your approval.
Thank you, Frank. Commissioner, questions?
Thank you. Not really. I think the effort that's being made across Oregon under what now is called a deflection program, which is as a result of a measure that was passed several years ago that turned out to be perhaps a public policy error of large proportions, is being corrected, and I see this as part of the fix of going forward, and what our local group does here, I think, is commendable, because we suffer from a lot of the same, well, probably exactly the same issues as across Oregon and across America, and $118,000, I think, will help move things forward, so I would support this.
Thank you. As do I. I'm grateful that this process is moving forward, that we're figuring out what we're going to do with our deflection program. I was reminded as you were talking, Frank, about an email I got yesterday from a woman in Rockaway Beach who was asking, why doesn't law enforcement engage in addressing drug activity? And it's that sort of comment we hear fairly regularly, and it seems to be a result of Measure 110. When we Oregonians voted in Measure 110, it decriminalized drug activity. And so it really hobbled law enforcement from being able to address drug activity. So maybe the deflection program that we're now developing to revise Measure 110, maybe that will make us more effective in addressing drug activity in our neighborhoods. I hope it does. I certainly hope it does. So in any case, I am supportive of this measure. Did you have something else you wanted to say, Frank?
No, no, my only comment is that I think the very nature of deflection is one of partnership. And while law enforcement may be taking some form of lead, there are other kinds of things in communities that address concerns around substance use. And it is not simply one. And that is the nature of planning and coming together as a team to see what and that's what all the communities across Oregon are doing. So anyway, so I appreciate your comments, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're ready for motion.
Hey, Madam Chair, in consideration of a third amendment to the Oregon Health Authority 2024-2025 Intergovernmental Agreement Number 026023 for the financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 6 is consideration of an interagency agreement with Community Action Team Child and Family Development Programs for the provision of medical and dental health services. Do we have Marlene Putman with us online?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
You too, thank you.
So we have this agreement with Community Action Team, or CAT, as they're affectionately known as, for Head Start. We've been doing this for a number of years. I don't know how many, but this program serves Tillamook County's early childhood education, health, nutrition, and parent involvement services for our low-income children and families. CAT runs Head Start, which is a federally funded program that promotes school readiness for children ages 3 to 5 by enhancing their cognitive, social, and emotional development, and Early Head Start, which serves pregnant women, infants, and toddlers. Those children are up to age 3. This program supports the overall healthy development of young children through comprehensive services that focus on education, health, nutrition, and overall wellness for families and children. Our department has been in partnership, actually, there's a little note on here, I'm reading some of these notes, from at least 2011. So this agreement specifies, there's no dollar amount, as you'll see in the agreement, but it does specify that we will work with Head Start programs to ensure that we get both the families into services and work with their staff to make sure we have statements for those families and service access. It's part of a requirement for the program at Community Action. So this is basically putting those requirements into the required format for our partnership. And that is what this document is about. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. No real questions. I just see this as a part of a much bigger picture, and in this case, serving the younger population, and it's what the Health Department does, and in my judgment, should be doing. So yes, I support it.
Terrific, as do I. I think it's great. I'm grateful for the work. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Hey, Madam Chair, in consideration of an interagency agreement with Community Action Team Child and Family Development Programs for the provision of medical and dental health services, I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, I think Marlene, we have you for the rest of the morning. We have several more items with you. Okay.
You do.
Item 7 is consideration of modification number 2 to Personal Services Agreement number 6501 with Ready Group for the Public Health Modernization Community Assessment and Improvement Plan Project. Marlene?
Yes, so just to clarify, this is a no-cost extension of our agreement, and I pronounced it the same way you did, Commissioner Bell. It's actually Reed Group.
Thank you.
So I have to keep reminding myself. Anyway, we've been working with the Reed Group to conduct a community assessment process under our public health update or modernization process for over probably a year to 18 months, but the specific focus on the last 12 months has been on these core competencies, which there are 4 areas of public health, as the state calls it, modernization, which includes climate change and environmental health, emergency preparedness, culture and equity, and communicable disease. So in our partnership with the Reed Group, we have been working to do outreach with our partners, with our non-traditional partners, and with community members about how they receive their information, how they'd like to receive their information, what they know about these particular areas, and how we can better respond or quote unquote modernize to be relevant for the current public health issues in both our county, the state, and the nation. So we are getting our final report. We've had some meetings with our partners, but we need some extra time in order to get the final report completed, and we'll be sharing those with our community and with you. So that, again, is what this modification is about with the regroup.
Thank you very much. Commissioner?
Thank you. This appears to me to be just an extension of what is already in place and evidently already working, so no issues.
Nor do I. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 2 to Personal Services Agreement number 6501 with Reed Group for the Public Health Modernization Community Assessment and Improvement Plan Project, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, item 8 is consideration of a memorandum of agreement for a lease agreement with St. John's Church for Health and Human Services employee and volunteer parking. Marlene?
Yes, so we also have a lease agreement with St. John's, but we're looking at a 5-year renewal starting July 1 of this year and running through June 30 of 2029. It's taken a little bit of time to get the agreements in place, so it's retroactive to July 1. But we've been working with the great folks at St. John's to put this in place. As you may recall, we have a new building on 8th Street, which has created some limitations on parking on that street because we need to have public access right there from 8th Street. So we worked with our partners at St. John's to get an agreement to use their parking lot during the regular working hours of approximately 8 to 5, but we do have some staff who come in early around 7 and stay until 6. So we have an agreement for use of these spaces. I think the total is 18, but there are some reserved for their staff to come in and out. Since the need for this parking will continue over time with our staff, we've entered into this 5-year agreement. Starting July 1, we'll be paying $600 a month, and then beginning July 1 of 2026, that will be increased to $700 a month and then run through the 5-year term and renegotiate the lease at the 5-year point. So we're hoping this will help alleviate some of the stress on that street and improve access for our patients as well.
Terrific. Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. Is this, Marlene, is this parking for staff only or also public who might be served by your clinics?
At this point is for staff only because it's a block or a block and a half-ish from our facility. So it limits access for patients that might have to walk. But as we increase the number of patients we serve, we're going to have to look at more options and then also look at the access for the streets that are safe enough or comfortable enough for people with disabilities to traverse as well. But for now, for our staff.
Is it marked in any way? In other words, if someone wanted to just pull in there for a period of time, is it marked reserved or for the Department of Health, or how is it designated?
Yes, we're working with the church folks to make sure that it is designated as parking and then talking with the neighbors near there because there's, a shop and a couple other places that sometimes use that space. So it will be marked, as well as we're giving our staff little laminated parking stickers to put inside their car so people know that they're there in the appropriate spots.
So I don't mean to belabor it, but last point, if somebody is there who shouldn't be, then how does the process work?
We would just reach out to those folks if staff are like, hey, this lot's getting too full. We see other people in that don't have the stickers. Then we'll leave them a note and say, hey, this is parking for health center folks only. Please, recognize this. We don't have any enforcement mechanisms with the city. It would just be on us to monitor and notify people of that. So far, we haven't had any issues.
You're not going to tow their car and crush it into a small cube or anything like that?
No, that's not the plan.
Okay. No, that sounds like a very workable solution. Thank you.
Bill?
That has come up though, Commissioner Olson, and in other areas, and you have to have a sign that says, in accordance with the state Yes. statute, you can be towed before you can tow them. But other public so far. Well, you know, Tillamook, as a general rule, doesn't have, well, I shouldn't say this, it doesn't seem to have much of a parking problem, but as things evolve and we get larger apartment complexes and all, I can see some issues in the downtown core area anyway. So, okay, good answer. I think it'll work fine.
I'm glad you were able to work out this agreement, and hopefully it's also helpful to St. John's Church, so I'm fully supportive. I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. In consideration of a memorandum of agreement for a lease agreement with St. John's Church for Health and Human Services employee and volunteer parking, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. Item 9 is consideration of change order number 3 with Cove Built LLC for the construction of the Tillamook County Health Department Public Health Building Addition and Remodel Project. Marlene.
Yes, so we are really trying to wrap this up because it was supposed to be finished up last year with these last few items for the building where we did both an expansion and remodel of an existing building right next to our clinic there on 8th Street. So the next 3 items relate to change orders pertaining to that contract. And with me joining online is Maya Van Spybrock, who is our administrative assistant, and she is much more familiar and has been working with staff in the commissioner's office to make sure we get this all cleared up. So I'm going to let Maya address these items, and then if there are other issues that we need to do any follow-up on, we can check up on that. So thanks, Maya. Can you go ahead with the item that was just mentioned by Commissioner Bell?
Good morning,
Change order
Maya.
3.
Hey,
Morning.
Maya, excuse me, we have to vote on these separately, but you can talk about them all at the same time. So just go ahead
Okay.
and go through the list. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for having me. My name is Maya Van Spybrock. I'm an administrative specialist for the Health and Human Services Department. So this first change order, number 3, is in relation to decreasing the contract sum by $9,836.99 due to a project allowance limit not reached. Therefore, that amount is being credited back to the health center. When the project was first signed, the contract, there was $75,000 budgeted for project allowance to be used throughout the project on various issues or new additions that weren't determined when the contract was signed. The contractor only used $65,163.01 of that $75,000. So therefore, they are returning that unused portion to us. And you may notice that the date on the change order is back in 2023. There was a lot of change happening with my predecessor leaving, so this was kind of lost in translation. So we're just looking for approval to close that gap for this one.
Thank you. I'll invite my fellow commissioner to ask questions as we go.
No, maybe when they're done with all 3 of them, and I understand we'll do them 3 separately, but no, go ahead and talk to the other ones if she wants.
Okay, moving on to
Okay.
item 5.
Yes, so change order 5. Again, this might seem out of order. Change order 4 was already approved at a prior meeting. So this change order 5 increases the project sum by $9,323.57 due to the extension of required work to be done to the building. So this amount pays for the construction company, Cove Built LLC, to work on the related installation of a fence and a gate. So this was determined after they returned the money for the project allowance. And so, yeah, the change order brings the total contract sum to $1,329,321.33. And so we're just requesting your approval to on this contract sum addition.
Thank you.
And then I'll move into change order 6.
Thank you.
This change order extends the termination date until November 29th, 2024. Like Marlene said, this project was originally supposed to be completed in October of 2023, but due to unforeseen issues and ongoing fixes, the project is still not 100% complete. The contractors are currently finishing up installing the external generator and some sidewalk fixes. So we're just requesting your approval for project extension.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner, questions for Maya?
No, I have no real questions without knowing the project more intimately, but I would comment on the architect in this case. I have known for quite some time. He designed and managed the construction of the Hebo Fire District station, or the Nestucca Fire District in Hebo, I should say, and also has worked for PUD, and he's also done a fair number of smaller projects in this building, in the county courthouse. And so he's been around many years, and I'm glad to see that things are going forward, and I have full confidence in his ability to manage projects and bring them in on budget or pretty darn close, and understand the variabilities on the Oregon coast, because building something or remodeling something on the Oregon coast can be quite different than it is elsewhere, simply because our weather and our winds and our rain and contain a little more salt air and those kinds of things. So I'm pleased that this is finally getting done, and I have yet to see, well, I shouldn't say that, very few construction projects, excluding the ones Rachel manages, of course, come in on time. And so in this, I can see has dragged over, but there's almost always a compelling reason for, and sometimes it's no fault of the project at all, simply material shortages and so on. But I'm prepared to do all three of these in favor of moving forward. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. As am I. I'm fully supportive of the project, glad it's coming to an end, and that space is usable for the health department. And Maya, I just wanted to welcome you to our meeting. I think this is the first time you have presented with us. You did a great job, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
So we'll take these items one at a time.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of change order number 3 with Cove Built LLC for the construction of the Tillamook County Health Department Public Health Building addition and remodel project, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 10.
Madam Chair, in consideration of change order number 5 with Cove Built LLC for the construction of the Tillamook County Health Department Public Health Building addition and remodel project, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And item 11.
Madam Chair, in consideration of change order number 6 with Cove Built LLC for the construction of the Tillamook County Health Department Public Health Building addition and remodel project, I move approval.
And I second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. Thank you, Maya, and thank you, Marlene.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Maya. You did do a great job. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Moving on to item 12, we have consideration of modification number 2 to professional services agreement number 6350 with Environmental Science Associates for the Reneke Creek Culvert Replacement Preliminary Design Project. And with us, we have Chris Lady, Director of Public Works, in person. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Commissioners. One of the things that's lacking when I show up in person is my display in the background. So Environmental Sciences has a contract to do some work in the Sitka Sedge Dike in that area down there by Tierra del Mar. A lot of analysis that goes with that, including a significant amount of hydraulics work. Adjacent to that is the Reneke Creek culvert. It's on Sand Lake Road, and it constantly floods every single year. Our desire is to replace that with a bridge, but to do that, we have to understand the hydrology associated with any work that is done with the dike. So concurrent to that, County Public Works, Tillamook County Public Works hired on ESA to do a type size location analysis using information obtained from OPRD's project with Sitka Sedge. So the two are intimately twined. So any delay associated with Sitka Sedge ultimately requires a delay and essentially requires a delay in our service, kind of speaking to Commissioner Olson comment previously. So with this is the hydraulic analysis has been completed. We have modified the type size location study for that. What type of structure, a bridge, what is the location? It's on what part of Sand Lake Road, so we know where that's at, type size. We already know what type of, the size of the bridge. Does it change based on the hydraulic analysis completed for Sitka Sedge and also the stream work that needs to be done up above it, which needs to be realigned on that? So this modification is simply to extend the agreement date to accommodate delays associated with the Sitka Sedge project.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, questions?
Thank you. So on this one, I think I know what you're talking about here. Where does the money come from? What's the funding on this one? I don't recall.
So the type size location study is purely on us. What that is allowing us to do is set the stage to go after grant money. So we know what we want to go after because we've tied it to, we tied it to the hydraulics associated with the dike project. We do know that it's going to modify the channel. So in order to do all three, we are only focused on the bridge. So the bridge, the type size location analysis is we set the stage to go after grant money. But this is funded purely by the road department funds.
So is this something that the Salmon Superhighway Group might be interested in?
Yes, so there's been a number of discussions, many discussions associated with the U.S. Forest Service Enterprise Team, which is part of the Salmon Superhighway program, to do the design associated with this. So moving forward, they need to know enough about it so that they can budget and accordingly. The U.S. Forest Service Enterprise Team comprises of a number of engineers across the country. The person that's actually working on a number of our projects right now is out of Cleveland. So they use some of the local Forest Service members to do some of the hydraulics or some of the background information. They work with a structural team. The issue with this one in particular is they don't really get into bridge. They do a lot of culverts. This one's requiring a bridge. So they're discussing it in-house is that can they take on a bridge project as opposed to a culvert project? And that is something there. Salmon Superhighway, this is a high priority for them. It's a high priority for us. It's a significant road for us, people that commute from Pacific City to Tillamook. So very high likelihood we'll get a grant associated with that, but we needed to know what the project was to go after the grant.
Okay, thank you.
I am fully supportive also. Glad we're moving forward with this, and I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 2 to Professional Services Agreement number 6350 with Environmental Science Associates, ESA, for the Ranke Creek Culvert Replacement Preliminary Design Project, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, item 13, consideration of an order in the matter of declaring county-owned property as surplus. Chris?
So our shop, our yard in Tillamook is a fairly large yard. Over time, we accumulate a fair amount of vehicles that are no longer useful for the county for a variety of reasons. One, there are repair problems. It's going to cost more money to repair them than they're worth. And two, we purchase newer vehicles, better vehicles. Three, we can no longer find parts to maintain some of these vehicles. So there are 26 items that we are looking at disposing. We do have some interest in the Bay City Fire Department for one of these. Clatsop County has expressed interest in some of these. The final details on the cost associated with that, can we exchange in-kind services? I can read off all 26 items, but this has been accumulating for a long period of time, including our paver, which it stopped functioning approximately 10 to 15 years ago with our new paver. So it's grown. I said, Chris Laufenmaker is the operations superintendent. He can't retire until he gets the boneyard removed. So
So he's motivated. Commissioner.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask, this is really a long list. So typically, I don't see this many come before, or in my time here anyway. How far back does this go, like 6, 8, 10 years, or can you say?
well, the paver dates back 10 to 15 years ago. Some of these they go back to the early 90s. So we've got great mechanics. We keep the fleet up and running for a long period of time, as much as we can. You've heard me discuss hybridizing, taking pieces off of one equipment and putting them onto another piece of equipment. So we've done that. We have merged vehicles together. We Frankenstein in order to make these things work. So we take the maximum amount of, we've salvaged some parts off of one vehicle that was compatible with another. These are vehicles that are no longer able to salvage pieces, fenders, et cetera, off of. They're not available for hybridizing with another vehicle. So these are the trailers. We've got several trailers out there. The Jeep is one that is, it's just not worth trying to salvage anything off of that. So there's a variety of things that are in here they're on here for a variety of reasons.
So what, has the county done an auction of some sort here in recent years that you know of? Rachel might know as well.
These will go on an auction line. The ones that we are not, something that Bay City or some other department are not interested, these will go on the auction line.
We regularly use public surplus online auction, all the departments do.
Okay. And so when it's all said and done, they'll be taken away, and then we just take them off the books entirely, and the title passes with them to whoever takes it away?
Correct. If the title is associated with it, some of them do not have a title, but yes.
Okay, well, this ought to open up some ground space, I guess. So, okay, so that answers my questions that I remember in my previous life doing some auctions where there were over 100 people showed up for old cop cars and people, things like that, and generated some interest. Seemed to me to be a fairly long list is the reason I had some interest. But no, I'm good with what's happening, and I appreciate that they're parted out before they actually get rid of them and we make maximum use, which I think we should. So I would certainly support this one.
Thank you. As do I. I was thinking about, for the time that I was the interim director of Tillamook County Parks, in that time, we got some new vehicles finally, but before that, we mainly had hand-me-down vehicles from Public Works. So I'm happy that we don't have to be first in line to, Parks doesn't have to be first in line for these old vehicles. And good for you for going through the process. So it's, yeah, I understand how they pile up. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Hey, Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of declaring county-owned property as surplus, I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, item 14 is consideration of a prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Road and Driveway Company for the Sunset Drive paving project in Pacific City.
So this project would have gone on the commissioners. We did a notice of intent to award 2 weeks ago. The fair delayed this a week, so this is to award the contract to Road and Driveway. The total cost of this is $104,350.80. They actually plan on starting to do the work next Wednesday, Thursday, and possibly Friday. Sunset Drive is located in Pacific City, and it connects Bob Straub, and it travels north towards where the asphalt is currently in decent shape, so near the Beachy Bridge in that vicinity. So again, starting next week, it paves that road. It also picks up the entrance to the boat launch area there, and that's also where they do the horse riding, and the horse trailers get dropped off right there. We've coordinated with state parks. We've let county parks know of our operation because of the boat launch. So it will be open to a single lane while paving is happening. There will be a partial shutdown at the boat launch in order to make this happen. And that will be as reduced as much as we possibly can. So this would be contracted paving instead of county paving.
Terrific. Okay.
Thank you. My question there, and I was at a CAC meeting, and I told about 100 and some people, it was a really large meeting, and I told them that this was going to happen, and I think all but one were happy. Somebody wanted slow people down, I think I mentioned before, but the only question, it really wasn't a question, is it, when this is a 2-inch lift, I think you told me before, not a 4-inch.
Correct.
And so is the edge a sharp 90-degree, or do you feather it out?
So when the project is done, we do shoulder rocking. So so we'll talk about there's a lot of dips in this road due to the road's built on sand, and there's utility cuts there, and just over time, we end up with this roller coaster. So the project will fill in the dips, and then it'll be a 2-inch lift that goes across the top. Normally, we do a 4-inch lift. Approximately 8 years from now, we anticipate that the water company will do some work out there. Ideally, we would delay our work until that water line work is done. Unfortunately, the road is in such poor shape that we really need to do something with it now. So we'll do 2-inch lift, and after they do the water line work, then we can do the top lift on it. So approximately 8-10 years when that will take place. So some advanced coordination with the Pacific City Joint Water Sewer District associated with that. As far as the drop off on the edges, the shoulder rock comes in after the pavement is done, and it usually doesn't happen exactly right after, but that will take gravel up to the edge of the road and it'll taper out. So it gets rid of that sharp drop off.
Okay, well, I think that's going to be a welcome addition for the community, and as I say, there, 1 or 2 people don't think it's a good idea because they think they'll be speeding up and down and become a drag strip, but we shall see.
I think it's terrific also. That road is a mess. You're absolutely right. So I think it's great that we're moving forward on that. We're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a prevailing wage contract for construction with Road and Driveway Company for the Sunset Drive paving project in Pacific City, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Item 15 is consideration of modification number 1 to professional services agreement number 6571 with Dowell for the Wilson River Training Structure Shiloh Levee Project.
So we currently have a contract with Dow to do design services and to do construction engineering services for this project. As part of the grant, when we start looking at different variety of grants that are out there, some of them, or at least one, requires a benefit cost analysis. Those are not very fun to do. Dell has provided a scope and schedule and budget in order to do this work. I understand that Rachel had actually reached out to another entity in order to find out, is this a compatible or a reasonable estimate for services. So the increase of cost is $18,890. They can, as long as they get a notice to proceed by the end of August, they can get that turned around by the end of September, which aligns well with a grant, my understanding. So this increases the total project amount, the total agreement price, to $689,262.00. The contract would be, the amendment has a total, so this, they would have this completed by the end of September, the benefit cost analysis.
Terrific. Commissioner?
I don't have any questions on that one. Again, seems pretty straightforward. That's been talked about for a long time, and time to move forward.
I agree. Yeah, I'm eager for that project to move forward, so I'm fully supportive. We're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 1 to professional services agreement number 6571 with Dowell for the Wilson River Training Structure Shiloh Levee project, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, thank you, Chris. Item 16 is consideration of an order in the matter of the vacation of a portion of Shoeholm Avenue in Tillamook County, Oregon. With us, we have Jasper Lind from the Public Works Department. Good morning, Jasper.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. So today we have a vacation, as you mentioned, for a portion of Shoeholm Avenue. It is a small stub of Shoeholm that is in between Portland Avenue and Old Neatarts Road. There is a single ownership on both sides of the right-of-way. And essentially what they're proposing is a vacation of the vehicular and pedestrian component of a right-of-way. So it would be a full vacation, but there are utilities that are within this right-of-way, which we would want to see utility easements drawn up for. Specifically, Tillamook Public People's Utility District has a guide pole and an anchor that is within that right-of-way. Neatarts Oceanside Sanitary District has a main line running through, and Neatarts Water District has a main line running through. So from our perspective, this is not a right-of-way that we would ever see developed. From Portland Avenue down to Old Neatarts Road is approximately a 20-foot drop within a 70-foot distance. So if we were to ever attempt to develop it, we would end up with a 28% grade of a road that's intersecting at a 45-degree angle with another road. It would be substantially hazardous. There is no current evidence of people using this as a pedestrian pathway, and should they choose to, it would be significantly hazardous. So our recommendation is to proceed with the vacation so long as there is an easement for the utilities, as well as an easement for the stormwater systems that run through. Questions, I'd be happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasper. Commissioner?
Thank you. No question. It appears to me, and I did look at all the maps and pictures, that this is sort of a natural and something that happens from time to time when we figure out it has a better use, and then vacate the property and take it forward from there. So I'm good with the proposal.
Thank you, as am I. Thank you, Jasper. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of vacation of a portion of Shoeholm Avenue, Tillamook County, Oregon, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks, Jasper.
Thank you very much.
Item 17 is a contract for goods with Pacific Gold and Turf for the golf cart replacement purchase for the Parks Department. Good morning. With us, we have Dan Keyes, the new Parks Director. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's good to be here. Thank you very much. So the item under review today is a contract for goods for the purchase of 4 replacement golf carts to Pacific Golf and Turf out of Portland, Oregon. I won't go through all the attributes, but the golf carts do come with some essentials such as DC converter, light package, fold down windshield, plastic bed, manual lift, as well as a weather enclosure. The golf carts are used extensively in the parks system throughout all our campgrounds. This means for camp host staff to conduct work-related activities, and the average life expectancy of golf carts at our campgrounds can vary based on several factors, including maintenance, usage, and the type of golf cart, whether it's electric or gas. And by the way, these are gas-powered ones that we're proposing today. Generally, a well-maintained golf cart can last 5 to 8 years. At this time, to help keep the existing fleet of golf carts operating, park staff have nearly exhausted all the spare parts on an array of skeletal carts that currently line the back fence of the park shop yard. And at some point in the future, we'll be bringing those to you for surplus as well. The financial component of this proposal is that the cost per unit has been quoted from Pacific Golf and Turf at a rate of $10,657.50 for a grand total of $42,630. As a result of Tillamook County being a member of Omnia Partners, which provides access to group purchasing contracts with leading national suppliers in a streamlined procurement process, the county needed a single quote from a participating vendor, as well as we received a 25% discount. The requested items for purchase have been approved in the Y24-25 budget development process in the amount of $74,000 under machinery and equipment, account number 13200-201-202. So Park staff is recommending for the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners to approve the contract for goods for the purchase of 4 Cushman Hollard golf carts from Pacific Golf and Turf in an amount not to exceed $42,630.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. So you said they're gasoline, not electric?
That's correct. We took a vote and staff was heavily in favor of gas. That's correct.
Do you run your department like a democracy or republic or what?
Sometimes we do, yes.
Okay, well, I haven't looked at what golf course, I know every time I go down to Arizona, if you go off some of those little communities, you got golf carts coming at you from every direction, and, but they're absolutely practical in a park environment where you're running around, and I'm assuming these are two-wheel drive, or are they all-wheel?
They're two-wheel drive, that's correct.
Wheel?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, the only other question that came to mind when I read this is, how many companies now make these things, electric or gas? Do you have any idea?
I don't. There are a number though, but to know an exact figure, I'd have to look that up and get back to
Is
you.
it painted green? Most of them are green.
This one is green, yes.
Okay, it's a good guess. Okay, no, I'm good. You know, and the nice thing I'll just say for those who might be watching, the Parks Department is a special fund. It is totally self-sufficient. This money that is being referenced today comes from those who rent space in our parks and stay for a period of time. So there's no draw on the general fund, and Parks is completely self-sufficient, which not every Parks Department in Oregon can say that. So I think it's a good thing.
Thank you, as do I. I'm glad you're getting some golf carts. I know you need them. I know that Parks staff have been working hard to cannibalize the old unusable golf carts and keep the ones you have running. And so I think this is terrific, and thanks for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, just off the subject, I want to congratulate you on the Tillamook County Parks booth at the fair. It was the first time Parks has ever been present at the fair, and you did an outstanding job, as did your staff. It was just a fabulous booth.
Perfect. All that staff know, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of a contract for goods with Pacific Gold and Turf for golf cart replacement purchase for the Parks Department, I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Commissioners, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Item 18 is consideration of a 2024 rural and non-metro election infrastructure grant agreement with the Center for Tech and Civic Life for operationalizing reliable and secure election administration in 2024. With us, we have Caitlin Munoz, Deputy Clerk from the Clerk's Office. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So the Clerk's Office has applied and received a grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life in the amount of $20,000. This grant is for rural and non-metro election infrastructure. The purpose of this grant is planning reliable and secure election administration for the November 2024 election. We're going to use these funds to increase temporary staff due to the increased risks surrounding elections. This will ensure safe transporting of ballots from outlying ballot drop sites to our local elections office. We also plan to utilize these funds to purchase additional security features for our elections office. So we had planned on purchasing 2 additional security cameras that this grant will be able to use this grant for. These funds are only to be used during the November 2024 election. Today, we seek your approval to move forward with receiving these grant funds and continue our efforts towards a secure and reliable November 2024 election. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yes.
Questions?
Well, thank you. I was trying to think of a question where I could put her on the spot, but really it's pretty straightforward. As the liaison to the clerk, I have talked with them about cameras, and these days, I think we would all agree that elections across America are having scrutiny as never before. And even if everything is absolutely pure and above board, which I believe it to be here, it doesn't hurt to tell the public that there are extra precautions in place, that your things, there's lots of cameras looking over your shoulders. The people who come in, there's some background work on them, and, you know, elections are sort of the backbone of democracy in our republic. So I think this is a good thing, and we've managed to get a small grant to help with it. And one more step to, excuse me, having secure elections, and not only having secure elections, but making the public understand that they are secure and that they have, they see what's being done to ensure that security. So I think it's a good thing.
I agree completely. I think the more we can ensure the security of our elections and reassure voters that our process is secure, the better off we are.
Yes, thank you.
Is this the first time we've had this grant?
Yes, it is.
I was
and-
thinking as I read it, I don't think we've ever had this
No,
before.
no, we haven't, and it was kind of a spur of the moment. They sent it out to us. Christy applied, and we got it that day. So,
Great.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're very happy about it.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is it something we might see annually or every other year?
We don't know, but we're definitely going to keep our eye out for it for sure. But we don't know if it's an annual thing. It is solely for this election, though.
Mhm.
Okay, Bill.
Legal's happy too. At the conclusion of the last presidential race, we were inundated. The clerk's office was with requests for records to ensure the public that our, thank you, Rachel, that our elections were, you know, run through systems that worked correctly. So this gives us a little more ammunition if, and I hope it doesn't, but it probably will, we're barraged again with those kinds of requests after the November election.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, consideration of a 2024 rural and non-metro election infrastructure grant agreement with Center for Tech and Civic Life for operationalizing reliable and secure election administration in 2024. I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Item 19 is consideration of a prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Weatherproofing Technologies, Inc. for the Tillamook County Library main roof replacement project. With us, we have Don Algeier, Director of Tillamook County Library. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners. I have before you a contract with Weatherproofing Technologies Incorporated to work on the Tillamook Main Library. We have a section of the roof that needs to be replaced. For years before I arrived at Tillamook County Library, there's been a leak that happens through a seam with the current way the roof is placed above the area where the foundation bookstore is. And so every year we get sideways rain, as I'm sure you're familiar with. And when that happens, there's significant leakage into the building, which obviously causes a series of problems, especially for books. So we're looking to replace that. Along with that, we are looking to have the gutter system enlarged so that it can handle the amount of rain that we get on the coast. The current system that we have is a fairly small gutter system for the size of roof that we have. And then along with that, we are making sure that the rest of the exterior of the building is sealed and ready to handle weather and make sure that the exterior of the building is good for another 20 years of operation. So I think of this as a really important insurance of the investment that taxpayers have made in this building and making sure that it is able to be functional and provide great library service for years to come. I'm glad to answer any questions you might have about it. I will note we have a budgeted amount of $755,000 that is part of this year's budget for this project. There's an additional $50,000 in contingency included in this contract because we know that once you open up exterior walls, you never know what you're going to find. And so we're just prepared in case there's additional costs associated with some of the repairs there.
Terrific. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. So Don, the library, if I remember correctly, is about 21, 22 years old now?
I want to say 18 years
Oh.
old.
I was thinking there was a 20-year bond and it's about paid off, so
Yeah.
in that range.
Yeah.
And so this is the original roof?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how long do you think it's been leaking?
I can't say for sure. It's been several years, whether it is something that started from very early on. I wouldn't be surprised because it has to do with how the seam is there. And it's not a constant, it's not every time it rains. So I could see where there have been a number of attempts to fix this over time, and this is a little bit more of a drastic replacement of that section of the roof to address it, because the solutions we've come to in the past have not dealt with the problem.
So how did you get to this particular company here? Was there an architect involved, or how did you get to select them?
So Weatherproofing Technologies Incorporated is a subsidiary of Tremco, and Tremco we got to through our agreement with McKinstry, and McKinstry recommended them. I know of the work of Tremco because I dealt with them in Multnomah County, and they've done work on roofs and exteriors there as well. They're really solid in terms of their approach to the projects. They, as you can see in the proposal that they provided, they're really thorough in terms of what they look at and making sure that the quality of the work is up to par to deal with, I think, especially Northwest climate, which is
Well, I'm
challenging.
somewhat familiar with them, the company as well. I have no issue with that. My question is, was this through a bid process or an RFP or a selection on an existing arrangement somewhere?
It is through a cooperative agreement.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yes, I think they're a firm, been around a long time. I have no issues with that at all. And here in Western Oregon, it does rain, and you're absolutely right. If you can get 15 or 20 years out of a roof, you've probably done well.
Yeah. Well, when the rest of the roof, I will say, doing great. So
And is it, what will go in is essentially the same material as composition type material?
yeah, they're going to do their best to really make sure that everything matches up with all the repairs and whatnot. I think there'll be a slight difference that is inevitable when you're replacing a part of a roof that's been around for nearly 20 years.
So
So
they're doing just this part, not the entire.
not the entire roof.
So what do you think how long will that last? Much longer, do you think?
The overall roof,
Yes.
I'm not a roofing expert, Commissioner Olson. I've heard estimates on the length of time that a metal roof will work, and I've heard opposing viewpoints from people who don't work in metal roofing, and I could not tell you one way or the other. I would assume that we probably have at least another 30 years with the original roof. But again, I'm not a roofing expert, so I don't want to speak out of turn or
Well,
get
fair-
out over
fair
my
enough. I
skis.
just, like I said, roofing materials don't last as long typically because of wind and rain and the rain that does come in sideways. And okay, good. Well, I'm prepared to go ahead and support this for sure.
Terrific, as am I. Thank you for your work on this. Do you want to say anything about the disruption around the campus?
Yeah, I expect, so this work will commence. We do not plan to close during the time that this construction is happening. I'm working with the construction team on the schedule of events that happen at the library. We have a number of outdoor events during the end of this month, and then we have our regular programs that happen in the library interior once fall begins. We expect that there will be scaffolding around the building, that there will be both entrances will be available during that time. We also expect that there will be disruptive noise for people using the library for a period of time. I think it'll be on different sides of the building at different times, so we'll probably be advising people who want a little more quiet to be on different sides of the building at different times, and probably directing those people who really like the headphones to be near the noise. But yeah, I expect that there will be a little bit of disruption in terms of that, but that the library will be fully accessible.
Terrific, thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, let's get the right one here. In consideration of a prevailing wage contract for construction with Weatherproofing Technologies Incorporated for the Tillamook County Main Library Roof Replacement Project, I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Dawn also has the next couple items. Consideration 20 is consideration of a contract for services with Bywater Solutions for installation and implementation of the COA Integrated Library System, Aspen Discovery System. Dawn.
Hello, Commissioners. And I'm going to have Brian Miyagishima join me. He is the Director of the Lincoln County Library District. And I'm pleased to bring this before you because this is a really important step in the move towards a COHA integrated library system. I've spoken about that before in front of this board, and we are getting ready for the stage where we will begin the process for migration starting in September with the ideal go live date of March 11th. And so the integrated library system is the backbone of the library. It provides the catalog and accounts for all the library users. It also will include the Aspen Discovery Service, which is a software overlay that will allow people to access materials more easily using our website. The costs for this this transition are part of an LSTA grant that is provided and going to be administered by the Lincoln County Library District. So, Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. LSTA stands for Library Services and Technology Act, and it is a federal grant that is provided to us by the State Library of Oregon. We in Lincoln County have had a long-standing agreement to share resources with the libraries here in Tillamook County, but because we use two different software systems, we use one called COA in Lincoln County, and
Sierra.
They use one called Sierra over here. We have had to resort to some convoluted methods to share materials. And so the libraries have been meeting for the past several years to figure out how to move forward with streamlining operations. We decided to go out for LSTA funding last year and managed to procure $76,000 to go ahead and do the software migration. So this particular item that you are voting on then is for the installation and implementation of the COA software so that the libraries of Tillamook County, as well as Lincoln City and Newport, which are underneath the Ocean Books umbrella, could join our system, and we will be then one system.
And you may well be asking yourself, why are we signing for Ocean Books? And the reason for that is that I am the designee for signing on behalf of Ocean Books for both Driftwood, Newport, and Tillamook County. And so I'm asking for your permission and for my signature to approve this agreement.
So for years and years, before I was sitting up here, I was very much aware of what was known as the Coastal Resource Sharing Network. So was this the same thing? Could you define those terms and what the current language is?
Yeah, so right now we're part of the Ocean Books Library Network, and it is the Driftwood Library, the Newport Library, and then the Tillamook County Library System are part of a consortium that shares materials. And then we previously, years and years ago, were part of a larger consortium that I think you're alluding to, and it included both the Tillamook Bay Community College, a majority of the rest of the libraries in Lincoln County, and then also the Clatsop Community College. Am I forgetting anyone, Brian?
I don't think so.
And so those are and so what we are we're putting that back together. So that'll link us back, most importantly to me, to the Tillamook Bay Community College, but also make sure that, like Brian says, that it's a more seamless sharing situation between all of these libraries moving forward. So it'll give community members throughout Tillamook County access to more materials throughout these library systems.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. Thank you for joining us in person, Mr. Miyagishima. I have been on a Zoom call with you when you joined us for the library board. We appreciate you coming.
I'll appreciate the chance to be here.
Thank you. I think this is a great opportunity for all of our libraries. I appreciate that we'll have expanded access, that we'll have better connectivity, that it'll be more efficient. And do I understand correctly that it's actually less expensive?
Yeah, I was going to, in the next one, I was going to really blow the celebratory horn for the fact that this will save over $100,000 a year compared to our current system. So it is a significant savings to the taxpayers of Tillamook County, and will be, I think as good. Actually, I think it's going to be a better system overall in terms of the usage. And it's rare that I think you get to say that I think we're moving towards a better system and it's going to be significantly cheaper. So I'm really excited for that.
Me too. You're right. It is rare.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
No, I was going to suggest the second one looks like a maintenance agreement to what we're talking about here. Maybe he could speak to that and then we could do them, or whatever you
Absolutely.
prefer.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Commissioner Bell was saying, this is going to be a significantly cheaper plan. And what you have in this second item is the costs for the first year and a few months after we get the system up and running. It's about $14,200 and would be charged on the July 1st of 2025. So it's moving into the next fiscal year. And then ongoing costs from there of $10,650 for the annual support and hosting fee for Koha to Bywater Solutions, which is the company we're working with to implement and host host Koha. And then the Aspen annual support and hosting fee of $10,000. So you're looking at a annual cost of around $20,650 with that, and then an additional $7,500 for the Aspen annual support and hosting fee. And you can compare that with our current costs, which are, I want to say, over $160,000 for Sierra. So this is quite a bit of savings for us. But this contract will establish that service on an ongoing basis for us.
Wonderful. Well, I am grateful for this partnership. I'm grateful to have you on the job, Don, and to have you both on the job working together on this for our communities. It's really inspires confidence. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
I do have one additional question, if I might. Where elsewhere is this in use around Oregon or the Northwest or the West Coast or somewhere? In other words, we're not going to be stranded as the only user. I'm assuming there are lots of them elsewhere.
Absolutely not. In fact, one of the reasons to utilize this particular software system is because there's a good section, almost the entirety of the southern Oregon coast uses this particular software, as does Jackson County and as does Corvallis Benton County, who just joined. And so we thought that there was a significant enough user base here in Oregon that there would actually be, and we've already found this to be true, a number of people we can simply call whenever we needed some assistance.
Thank you. Good answer.
And part of that development funding is going to be around creating a user group in Oregon that is really going to, I think, be able to move this service forward because it is an open source system. We have more control over the development of the resource, and that means that in working together, we'll be able to influence that even more.
And I'm happy to say too that the Seaside Public Library is interested in joining our system once their current contract ends in a few years.
Great. Okay. I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, get the right one here. Madam Chair, in consideration of a contract for services with Bywater Solutions for technical support for the COA Integrated Library System.
Can I interrupt you? I think it's the one ahead of that, 20.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, I am. I'm watch my own notes here. Okay, start over. Madam Chair, in consideration of a contract for services with Bywater Solutions for installation and implementation of the COA Integrated Library System, Aspen Recovery Discovery System, I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And 21.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a contract for services with Bywater Solutions for technical support for the COA Integrated Library System, Aspen Discovery System, I move approval.
I second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 22 is consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of a member to the Tillamook County Tourism Advisory Committee. With us, we have Isabel Gilda, Executive Assistant from the Commissioner's Office online. Good morning, Isabel.
Good morning. Thank you. So before you today is a board order appointing a new member to the Tillamook County Tourism Advisory Committee, also known as the TAC. Bob Papke, is from Pacific City, and he has volunteered to be appointed as a member at large to represent South Tillamook County. Bob is a local business owner, and I said he's from Pacific City. This is a one-year initial appointment, and after the one-year appointment, members are eligible for a three-year appointment. And for those who don't know, but the Tourism Advisory Committee is made out of 9 members who advise the Board of Commissioners on proposed policies for the use of Tillamook County Transient Lodging Tax. That's the TLT fund that the county collects from short-term rentals. And so the committee advises the board on the use of these funds and other matters involving tourism or tourism-related facilities. And they also review, rank, and score the tourism-related grant applications that we receive. That's how we spend some of those TLT funds that go back into the community.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. I certainly would support this. I know Bob, and he just recently, as of last Saturday, stepped down as the 3-year chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee in Pacific City Woods area. And so he just, like a lot of people, he can't seem to sit still, and so he gets onto something else, which is a good thing. His business is known as PC Pour, which is a wine bar and a few other things, and they, I think, are doing well. They also are the host of David's Chair, which is a motorized vehicle for people with disabilities to get down on the beach, including the soft sand, the hard sand, and right up to the water. And I've heard from a lot of stories now that people are quite pleased and even amazed that something like that is around, because lots of folks who had problems moving around are now able to get down right next to the ocean, like maybe they used to do years earlier, or not at all. And so that's a good thing. He's been good part of our community in South County. So absolutely, let's keep him engaged.
Thank
And
you.
we're very fortunate to have him. He is very active in South County. So very pleased he's going to join the committee.
I am grateful for Mr. Papke's willingness to serve and grateful to your work for keeping all of our board appointments straight, Isabel. Thank you. That's a big job all by itself.
You're a busy board, so I'll say that.
I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of a member to the Tillamook County Tourism Advisory Committee, I move approval.
And I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you.
Item 23 is consideration of a temporary right of entry agreement with Walker's Contract Cutting across a county-owned tract located at Township 1 South, Range 8 West, Section 12B, Tax Lot 100 in Tillamook County, Oregon. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
Good morning, Commissioners. A couple of months ago, I was contacted by a private landowner who has property adjacent to one of our tax foreclosed properties that we have not yet sold, with concerns that there were some trees on our property that were leaning over her property. So she was trying to be proactive and avoid the trees falling down and creating a bigger mess that was more cumbersome to clean up. So I met her on site, looked at the trees, identified that there's 5 alders that would be worth taking out. Contacted a local company who has provided a bid to remove the alders and dispose of as they see fit with the landowner. So before you today is a temporary right of agreement that allows that contractor to enter our property if needed to remove the trees.
Terrific.
And it has a period of a couple of months that allows him to do the work.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
No, sounds pretty routine to me and something that happens as a matter of business and taking care of our affairs and all the pieces of land the county owns.
I am supportive also, so I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a temporary right of entry agreement with Walker's Contract Cutting across county-owned tract located at Township 1 South, Range 8 West, Section 12B, Tax Lot Number 100 in Tillamook County, Oregon, I move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Rachel. Commissioner Olson, board concerns?
Nothing at this time. I wondered, are we scheduled then for a board briefing this afternoon?
We are.
Okay, then I will be at that as well. Thank you.
Terrific. You're welcome. Well, I'll read about that right now. The Commissioners will hold a board briefing on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly Commissioner updates. The meeting will be held in this room, the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 at the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue in Tillamook. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. The local Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting will be held on Monday, August 19th, 2024 at 12 p.m. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse, again, 201 Laurel Avenue in Tillamook. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 155-859-952#. People who are interested can find out more about those meetings on the website on the County Commissioners landing page. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting. Oh, sorry.
We got a couple executive
Thank you.
sessions.
Sorry. Thank you.
And if you want to recess into that, then
I do.
They would be under ORS 192-660-2H. That's to consult with counsel concerning likely or pending litigation, and ORS 192-660-2P, a relatively new statute which allows you to go into executive session to discuss cybersecurity issues and infrastructure. And Joel is online and he's more familiar with those two issues, and so he's going to lead you through that discussion, and I'll take my leave and see you at 2 o'clock.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, then we will recess the board meeting at 10:53 a.m.
If you you want to hop upstairs on the print? On the printer, I filled out the form and I printed it. So if you want to sign it, look at it, sign it. I also sent it by Praxis just to give another set of eyes. So if there's any errors, I'll redo it. But print it here.
Just sign it and leave it there.
Yep, if it looks good, yep.
If I had a horse situation, a horse stable coming in next to me, I might want to raise an objection too. You know, I don't.
Well, especially if it's a small city lot,
Yeah.
or not
Well,
city, but.
I know where it is, I think, and they shouldn't have horses there. It's not too much bigger than this room.
Yeah.
I asked Sarah if it was allowed and she said it's not.
Yeah.
And are we, so I mean, again, Sarah was out for a couple of days.
Yeah.
You know, people expect an answer
Right
right
now.
now. And so for them to hijack, frankly, a board meeting because Sarah didn't get back to them in a couple of days is a little
Yeah.
Well,
arrogant.
they can be very aggressive in
Yeah.
this
Oh, I
one, that
know.
bunch there, you know, like, that's why I wanted to at least acknowledge that they were here and, you know,
Yeah.
this is not the place to debate it, but thank you for showing up. And,
Yeah.
you know, if I go to a meeting somewhere, I would at least want to be recognized. If you don't solve the problem, but at least say, okay, we'll take it under advisement or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, thank you for coming, goodbye, get out.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, you can turn it on now, Debbie.
Okay, we are back in our regular board meeting at 11:43. We did not make any decisions in executive session that we need to revisit in this board meeting, and we will adjourn this board meeting at 11:44 a.m. There you go. Okay.
Okay, so we're doing Praxis at noon?